What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about The Last of Us because this has got to be one of the biggest brands that PlayStation owns, and the curiosity about this new upcoming online multiplayer version of The Last of Us has been big. A lot of people are kind of wondering, how will it play? What will it be like? If this is a free-to-play version of The Last of Us, how filled with microtransactions is it actually going to be? Well, surprisingly, it seems like PlayStation has just stepped in to pretty much cancel the game, to fire a huge chunk of the staff, and a lot of people are now even more lost. Let's discuss. Hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, first and foremost, here it is over on IGN.com. The Last of Us multiplayer is reportedly on ice after layoffs. Naughty Dog is laying off at least 25 developers, most of which are QA assurance contractors. Now, when you first hear that number, it doesn't seem enormous. The idea of losing 25 developers doesn't seem like a huge piece of the pie, but actually consider the fact that the entirety of Naughty Dog is only 400 people, which means that they lost almost 10% of the entire company size just today. Now, obviously, there have been bigger layoffs than that. Even just this month, there's been talks about the fact that Epic Games fired 1,000 people. Studios like Mediatronic that made Fall Guys actually just got completely liquidated a couple days ago. So in context, 25 doesn't seem like an absolute deal breaker, but there's an additional wrinkle to this. The fact that they are quality assurance testers. What this essentially means is before your game comes out, you have to test it thoroughly. You have to get a team of testers to play it, to break it, to go through it again and again, finding glitches, deadlocking it, figuring out all the problems with it so they can patch it before the gamers get their hands on it. They have essentially just fired the entire QA team for The Last of Us multiplayer. Now, to me, that's a massive, massive red flag because that means there's just nothing to test. The game sounds like it's completely dead at this point. Now, apparently, Naughty Dog is very worried about this leaking out. Naughty Dog staff are being pressured to keep this news quiet, and yet things always leak out. But there's actually an extra part of this that's very strange. According to sources at Bloomberg and Kotaku, the project is basically on ice, although technically it's not completely canceled. There's a small group that remains working on it while the company reevaluates its direction. I think this is one of the strangest parts about video games today that definitely didn't exist even 10 years ago, definitely not 20 years ago, is the fact that it's very strange to me to consider that there are these constant backroom talks. Like, isn't it weird to consider the fact that The Last of Us multiplayer has been being developed now for years? It has like almost 5 years of development time. We haven't seen any gameplay or a single screenshot or really anything other than some leaks a while ago that pretty much just showed like Ellie wearing a bulletproof vest firing at people. And that was definitely like super pre-alpha tester stuff. But even still, internally, they're actually considering canon the game before we even had a chance to look at it. I guess this is weird to me because I do still trust Naughty Dog. I want this game to be as good as possible, but I'm kind of sad about the idea that very likely this is going to get scrapped before it even has a chance to get noticed by the fan base. Naughty Dog needs to cancel factions and just move on. They're clearly struggling to cook games as a service. Now, this is Kofi. Kofi is very good about being unbiased in general. I love Kofi a lot, but he is a big PlayStation fan. A lot of people are big PlayStation fans. So I guess I don't like the idea of fully canceling this, but he does bring up a good point. Right now, Sony is very obsessed with the idea of games as a service. Sony has straight up said their idea is to try and make more progressive worlds. Chances to have games that are free to start but then filled with microtransactions, purchasable costumes, content updates, big patches and stuff like that. Sony wants to try and make more games like Destiny, stuff that are not just one and done times, things that you actually have to sit down, you have to experience, and quite frankly, you have to pay way more than a standard $70. So I don't like the idea that Sony is so obsessed with this games as a service, and I do kind of think it's an extra bad sign that this is their games as a service that's been in the oven the longest, and it's already burnt out. I mean, that's probably not a good sign at all, but I wanted to take a look at one last tweet here by Kofi, which says, hey, here's a weird concept. How about PlayStation make single-player games and multiplayer games? This is something I've seen people kicking around, which is that PlayStation is in an odd spot where they're making a ton of cash. I mean, even if you look at their own publicly released financials, games like Days Gone sold just huge amounts. God of War, freaking even second-party stuff like Final Fantasy VII just sells like crazy on the PlayStation. But remember when they just used to make games? Like, I've actually been playing a bunch of like old PS1 stuff lately, just been in a nostalgic mood. And it's weird to think that back when PlayStation started, they would make all sorts of shooters. They'd make online stuff once the PlayStation 2 came out. They made all sorts of really, really good, fun, tight single-player adventures. It's weird that Sony just, the longer they go into this, they're so massive, I feel like they don't quite know where to focus their attention. I do kind of miss classic Sony, and I don't even mean from a million years ago. We're not even talking about PlayStation 3 era. It definitely seems like Sony was more focused. They were more clear-headed back in the PlayStation 4 generation. I mean, Killzone is kind of a dead brand right now, but bring it back. Bring back SOCOM. Bring back Little Big Planet. I don't know. There's like a lot of really good multiplayer quirky weirdness that could definitely turn a profit, but I guess it just isn't games as a service money, so it doesn't even count. What do you guys think about this, though? Are you excited for the future of PlayStation? I'm still excited, but the death of this, the pain of Naughty Dog, in my opinion, feels like a very big L. I mean, after the success of The Last of Us TV show, I can't believe they didn't release some sort of trailer for The Last of Us multiplayer. Something like this game must be super dead if they're not capitalizing on The Last of Us TV show more. But I guess we're going to figure out how this all ends at some point in early 2024. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. My cat woke me up like 3 or 4 times last night, so I am dead tired. I'm going back to bed. So if I look tired in this video, it's because I am. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.